Never too far away from cricketing action. This time we are back to the subcontinent and we are back with many familiar faces, many stalwarts back in the Indian team as we try and look at it as the road to 2023. Does it really begin here? And how will Team India look at it? We'll try and give our own little views here on Cricbuzz Live. I'm joined by Bhattacharjya and Dinesh Karthik. Good morning, gentlemen.
Good morning.
Morning, GB. Looking forward to this.
It's familiar foes in a sense when India plays Bangladesh, but if you think about it and go back to 2011, this is where the story began for India even before they came to their own shows.
Yeah, no, absolutely. And 2011 is a good place to start because that four from Sehwag and that century from Sehwag that really started off what was that caravan of victories. But my only problem is that after what happened with that T20 World Cup, I'm a bit hesitant to look at it as a road to anything in terms of, because I feel that, right now, whose team is this? Even if you look at the team, who selected this team? I mean, that selection committee now is being selected. So there's a whole lot of things we have to sort, but this is a very good one-day series because I think Bangladesh, this is their strong suit. This is the game they play very well and they're fantastic at home.
Well, it's also a very good Indian team who will be batting first. We mentioned some of the big names who are back in the fold. Well, we'll see them in action very soon because Bangladesh have won the toss. They've asked India to bat first. It's an early start, remember, despite being a day-night game, possibly dew being a factor that determines that we don't start at 2:30 in the afternoon. Instead, it's 12 noon local time, 11:30 in India. DK, I know Joy is hesitant to call it the road to 2023. Do you think India will be looking at it, Team India, in that fashion?
Most definitely. If you listen to Rohit Sharma's press conference, he kind of echoed what Joy said because he said it's too far ahead to think of. But already he claims Rahul Dravid and him have a very fair idea of majority of the squad. I think the number he said was 12 to 13 players. So, I mean, you pick 15 players for a World Cup. So they're kind of sure about the 12, 13 players that they know, which is very good. I mean, to have that much of clarity. And I've been saying this about Rohit. I think the one great aspect about his captaincy is his clarity and his communication. But for this moment, let's speak about clarity. And he seems to have it when it comes to the ODI setup, which augurs well for Team India.
Well, one interesting sidelight, since you mentioned it and you're hesitant to talk about that, 1 year before the Australia T20 World Cup, a certain gentleman who's our third member of Cricbuzz Live was not in the reckoning. And a year later, he was in there. So that tells you can't always pick your team a year before.
Yeah, absolutely. And my whole thing about it is that, yes, I think Rohit is very clear about what he wants. And again, I feel when we've done really well is when we've had captains or, very strong personalities, the captains and coaches really leading the selection committee, saying that these are the players I want to give you the results you want. Okay. And if you see it in case of Dhoni, Virat at its peak, they've had that. And that's, I think, what Rohit wants. What Rohit needs now is for a selection committee to say, what are you thinking about now to do? And we'll help you pick the right people to do that for you. And I think that is the thing, that if somebody's vision has to lead, and I don't believe selectors' vision should lead, I believe the coach and captain's vision should be leading what this team should be about. So this has to be Rohit's vision and the selectors helping him get that vision. Maybe they may say that, you wanted a fast bowler, maybe this guy you should try instead of that guy. But when he wants a fast bowler, he'll get that fast bowler or he'll get that wrist spinner that he wants. And I think that's what he'll be looking for the new committee and for anyone to do from here on.
I think the big question is, it sounds very good in theory. It sounds very eloquent the way Joy put it, but does it actually happen that way, DK? Because we're going to have a new selection panel coming in. Not more than 15 ODIs and an Asia Cup before that tournament actually happens. Can it be as smooth as Joy just painted the picture for Rohit to say, this is what I want, can you help me?
I think, as I've said before, they know majority of the squad. So they're looking at 3 to 4 players at max. And what are the roles that they are looking for? And let's understand, how cricket works as a sport. Unlike football, where only the manager calls the shots, in cricket, it is definitely the captain who calls the majority of the shots. And in turn, he's got obviously the coach to deal with and the selectors. If they all work as a good partnership, then it becomes a good marriage of sorts. And that's what they will be looking to accomplish. As selectors, they will be taking in the views of Rohit and Rahul Dravid and making sure that they give them what they want in most cases so that they have the opportunity to go out there. And at the end of the day, the end goal is the same. So that way, I feel it is right. In terms of players and choices, things will change. Look, I mean, let's take the openers. The number of players who've thrown their hat in the ring. We have a Shubman Gill who's not there, who's obviously done really well in his limited opportunities. Then we have obviously Rituraj Gaikwad, who's obviously done so well in domestic cricket. We have two players here as we speak, Rajat Patidar and Rahul Tripathi, who might not get a game unless we win the series 2-0 and the third game becomes a dead rubber. So, there are opportunities for a lot of players, and we also know with every IPL, there are some new names thrown in because they do so fabulously well. So there will be a spoiled for choices. That's always going to be the case from here on in Indian teams. But the clarity is what will help them deal with all those number of names that they're going to get over a period of time. As we see in the squad as well, we can see it's a solid squad. But are everybody going to get an opportunity? I don't think so.
Fair enough. We will just reveal the 11 we are talking about. Remember, DK had made a prediction about that wicket-keeping slot, something he's familiar with. And we did see KL Rahul with a few drills earlier with the gloves on. So let's just confirm to you the Indian 11 with India batting first, having lost the toss. And there it is. You can see the WK next to the name of KL Rahul. So that is something we had spoken about earlier. And the other big one, Joy, at the bottom is that not a Bengali Sen, a Madhya Pradesh Kuldeep Sen getting in after all that effort that he put in and how he showed himself in the IPL.
No, absolutely. It's fantastic. See, that's very interesting. If you see the two things that the IPL has really, it's given a lot. The plethora of opening batsmen and fast bowlers that you've got out of the IPL over the last 4-5 years, because, they just come to teams give you extra levels, the physios, the coaches, the foreign players, the Indian internationals give you so much other stuff that your quality of game absolutely improves hugely. And just to see Kuldeep Sen in 1 year making it there, it's been absolutely fantastic. But the interesting one is to see that Rishabh is sitting out and KL Rahul is coming in. And this was really, if you look at it, this is the only way you can accommodate Rahul, because given that those two are always going to open, Kohli is going to come at 3. Surya will slot in finally permanently at that 4 position. So, if you have to play him, you have to give him a run in that middle order, because that's the only place which is up right now.
And of course, like his predecessor of the same name and the coach, the balance of the side sort of been given by KL Rahul, not just batting in that middle order, but donning the gloves.
Absolutely. I think, this is going to be a major decision for them as well. The middle order batting, because at 4, we have seen Shreyas Iyer flourish in the recent past. But Surya Kumar Yadav, we know what he is capable of. He set the world on fire. Then we have a Hardik. Obviously, with the Rishabh Pant being there as well, you can only play 5 batters because all 5 are pure batters, and then you need to bring in the all-rounders. So the Hardik and Jadeja looks like that is a non-negotiable there. Like, we can't even go past them. So they are going to be 6 and 7. And then you have the 4 bowlers, which will in turn give India the opportunity to play 6 bowlers. My peeve with this squad, so to say, is the fact that there are no wrist spinners. I'm sure if there had been a Kuldeep Yadav or a Chahal, they would have definitely got an opportunity here. We have only finger spinners here, who in turn obviously are all-rounders as well, which helps. But going to Bangladesh with 4 fast bowlers in the 11, I am sure Rohit Sharma or Rahul Dravid would have liked a wrist spinner there. Either a Kuldeep Yadav or a Yuzvendra Chahal there. Here, obviously, they've left out Akshar Patel and gone for the other 2 options. It's interesting to see that Shabaz had got the nod ahead of Akshar. It could be a niggle, we don't know. But I'm just a little, as I said, I would have rather liked to have seen one of the wrist spinners there, especially Kuldeep Yadav, considering he's done so well and he didn't get an opportunity for a long time now and did well in the South African series as well. I don't see any point in him being left out here. So, that would have been a change in the squad, which would have been nice.
Well, Akshar was not available for selection, as we've got confirmed from the BCCI Twitter handle. But that is the reason for Shabaz coming in for Akshar. But either way, like for like, Joy, the finger spinner options that we had all figure in that middle column, as we put it in our graphics, which is the all-rounders column. So is that part of the thinking? Because all the wrist spinners we mentioned, be it a Kuldeep Yadav, be it a Yuzvendra Chahal, are all specialist bowlers. But all the finger spinners all slot in as all-rounders in that sense. Yeah. Be it Washington Sundar, Akshar Patel, Shabaz Ahmed.
Yeah, and they're all conditioning for that one place, which is currently The holder is the one Mr. Ravindra Jadeja, as he said. It's very difficult to look past him. So they are going to try and prove that they have it. In fact, the interesting thing for me is Washington Sundar, because I feel Washington Sundar's record in the limited opportunities he's had, he's been really injury prone. If you look at it, finger injuries, lots and lots of injuries. But when he's been clear of injury, I think he's a really, really good batsman as well. And I think among them, as a pure batting prospect, he'd be very high. He'd be among the top just as a pure batsman. So it's interesting. But India's, as he said, the middle order is so cramped that, you're not going to get a chance there. So finally, he's also auditioning for that number 7 slot, that if Ravindra Jadeja shows any weakness, that's the slot that they're really covering right now.
And one thing Washington Sundar has shown, which we've already known from domestic cricket and from those who know him, is his prowess with the bat. And he showed it recently in New Zealand, not once but twice, DK.
He is a very, very talented batsman. I mean, I watched him closely from the time he started to play domestic cricket. There's a tournament in TNPL where he opened and he lit that tournament on fire, like taking on bowlers. I think he actually, when he started, like when they start league cricket in Chennai, he came in as a batsman who could bowl a bit of off spin. But his overspin on the ball and the revolutions he was getting because of his big fingers was so good that people encouraged him to do more of that, and you could see how good a bowler he's turned into. But he genuinely is a solid batter, and we have seen that in New Zealand as well. 2 tough conditions, one was seaming, but the way he approached and played it was beautiful and absorbed pressure because he stayed till the end and made sure he made a difference in both the games. Different types of knock, both those, one where he finished an inning, another where it was under pressure. He kind of held the ship and took them to a decent score. So obviously Washington Sundar is a strong contender in the T20, in the World Cup 2023. Another name we missed out, and I think we have to speak about, and one of my favorites is Sanju Samson. I think in the middle order, in the limited opportunities that he's got, he's done so well. So among these 3 keepers, obviously there's going to be a lot, and Ishan Kishan there. So I mean, let's take the keeping aside. I think they're going to look at who are specialists and who could fit into what role before they figure out that 15 at the end. And as we say, things will keep changing and evolving, and that's for the better. But I'm sure around August of next year is when we can kind of predict what the 15 would look like.
Yeah, interesting. The 2 areas that we've just touched upon are both crowded areas. The 2 all-rounder slots that we're talking about, which if nothing else were to happen, Hardik Pandya, Ravindra Jadeja locked down. But if Washington Sundar can push hard, that you've got an immediate backup. But that keeper slot, be it keeper batsman or batsman keepers, whichever way you look at it.
Yeah, but that's sometimes I feel it's almost a problem being an all-rounder because you're looked at in a different way. You're saying that, okay, this is the slot that you're playing for. But as I said, I feel Washington Sundar is a good enough batsman that if he didn't bowl also, he's a prospect in your top 6. He's really, really good. And similarly, you take Sanju as well. The beauty about Sanju is that you can play Sanju in a position, he can bat at 3, 4, 5, 6. Ishan, you always feel with Ishan Kishan that if you don't open with him, you're losing. He's not really as effective for you batting slightly lower down the order. Whereas I think Sanju gives you value whichever way. In fact, Sanju's average, if you see, it's surprising the limited number of opportunities he got. The number of not outs he has is quite interesting. He's actually been, for his reputation as a guy talented batsman who gives his wicket away, he's got a lot of innings which he has held together in international cricket. And that's a side of Sanju which I just think we've just not had enough chances to see, sadly.
Well, the competition is not just...
Also, GB, in the same breath, I'm sorry for cutting in. In the same breath, because of the amount of cricket that's played and the different formats that we play, I think the whole cricketing world is getting a little juxtaposed of Rishabh Pant's form in T20 with one-day cricket. We need to look at it separately. In one-day cricket, in the last 10 innings, he averages 45 plus. He's got obviously that match-winning score of 120 in England in the recently concluded series in England. So he's done very well for himself. And when somebody has done well for himself, you cannot look at the T20 and say, oh, he should be removed from the one-day cricket. I think, you need to give him the opportunity to be out there, do well. And if he doesn't do well, then move on. But you can't just move away because he's done something else in another format. I think that's something that's unfair to the player as well. I think because of the amount of cricket, especially T20 that is played, it's obviously they're comparing that and they're adding that as scores and saying, oh, he hasn't done well. That's not how we need to look at things.
I just want to add to that, DK, it's also that where they also have to decide where they want to play him. Are they positioning him as a third opener? At some point, they were looking at him at the opening slot. They're putting him in the middle order. So he's been moved around a bit as well, and that can't be easy for him as well. And yeah, he's got 3 50-plus scores in the last 10. I mean, if you look at it in real terms.
Joy, if you look at it, Joy, let's be honest here. If you look at it, Joy, there is Shikhar and Rohit to open, which looks very certain. And then Virat Kohli at 3, who's unmovable. All right, we have that number 4 slot that is hanging. KL Rahul at this point, we need to remember, is the vice captain of the team. So I'd be very surprised, if anything goes. So we're talking, and then 6 and 7 is Hardik and Jadeja, and then so we go down 5. To the bowlers. Let's go down there. So there is one spot that we're talking about at number 4. Is it going to be Rishabh, Sanju Samson, Surya Kumar Yadav, Rajat Patidar, Rahul Tripathi? I mean, we can keep adding names here. Come on now. How can
Washington Sundar. I'll put Washington Sundar in there as well. He'll give you a 7th option, bowling option as well.
Absolutely, but I wouldn't put him at 4, but I get what you're saying.
I can tell you what, one member who will not be up for selection for the ODI series and will be back for the tests, and let's put that India squad up and we'll update you with that, is the man we've just been talking about. Whether or not you talk about white ball format or red ball format, much publicized his little chat with Harsha recently where he basically looked at red versus white ball, but interestingly DK says don't just look at red versus white ball, separate white ball into T20 and ODI cricket. Rishabh Pant has been released from the India squad for the ODIs for medical reasons and will join the team for the test matches, which is why dramatically in front of our eyes the name turns red. So Ishan Kishan, the only other wicket-keeping option open for this.
Interesting. I mean, I hope he recovers fast, whatever it is. And he's actually, if you look at it, he's been playing almost non-stop cricket or has been, non-stop with the team and this thing. So perhaps, sometimes it's just necessary to go home, spend a few days chilling away, and these 7, 8, 9 days that he'll get are very useful for him, I think, and it's good for him.
I was just looking at a stat which said the most number of matches played and most number of days played for the country. Number 1 is Mohammad Rizwan at 71, and Rishabh Pant comes in at 2 with 69. That's a lot of international cricket there. And you got to also understand there have been a lot of games where he hasn't played but been part of the team. Add that as well, and that is far more than Mohammad Rizwan as well. So it's good that he's taken a break. I hope he's okay medically. If they're giving him medical leave, it must be something. So I'm assuming that, he gets well soon, because I'm sure Team India will definitely require him for Test cricket.
Yep, but yeah, the rider to that little leave that he's getting is that he will rejoin the Indian team for the Test matches. 3 ODIs, 2 Test matches. That's the schedule in Bangladesh. But the one man again, while Dinesh Karthik has put KL Rahul as the keeper for today, that's come true. Shikhar Dhawan also, he's been looking at in our previews, in our build-up, as a certainty to nail down that opening slot, which is why we've got KL Rahul in the middle order. Now, Shikhar Dhawan, whether or not we nail him down, he needs to nail his own place down.
Yeah, and no, it's interesting that we even discuss it, because if you remember, Shikhar Dhawan was the master of what you call non-bilateral tournaments. Any ICC level tournaments, you see his multi-team, any formats that you see, he's really scored runs, especially in the ODI format. So he not being a certainty, and I think if you look at it, his form just doesn't now give him that opportunity anymore. I think the scoring rate is something that is interesting, because it's not a small sample size. 19 is not a small sample size. I'm trying to think why that would be, which conditions he's got it in. But 75.11 in today's modern, where 300 is a norm for the total, seems a bit low.
Yeah, I mean, I'm not sure he'd be looking at those numbers, DK, but more about something we talked about in the preview. It's the record that they have together. It's batting with Rohit Sharma at the other end. It's the chemistry that they have, and the solidity and the consistency of having an opening pair, familiar opening pair, starting now and keeping that going 12 months later.
Harsha, let me tell you this. Shikhar Dhawan plays one format now. That's number 1. Okay. Literally, his head has been on the chopping block for a long time. Not because he has done anything wrong, because there are other openers who have obviously played an IPL or other domestic tournaments or the international match here and there and done so well. So imagine a Shikhar Dhawan. He's not in the Test. He's not in the T20. He has just the one format to play for. And every series he starts, he's under pressure. So as a normal person, what you do, you try and protect your wicket, take lesser risks. And then once you feel that you've got a certain score, then you start scoring more freely. This is what has been happening. For him to have obviously traveled with the Indian team for so long is a testament in itself. It's not about his batting, but his mental skill. because number of openers that we can talk about is humongous, but he's still been there because he's been scoring runs slowly but steadily and consistently. The moment he knows that he is a sure shot walking into the World Cup, which will definitely happen post the IPL, another couple of series he does well, we can see him picking up his strike rate definitely. We all know, how tough it can be as a player when you're just playing one format, and for every match that you play, you're going to be scrutinized because there are other people, obviously, as openers, ready for that slot as well. It's hard work. It's really hard, and we're talking about high quality bowling and then some tough wickets as well. So I give him credit for just hanging around there and making sure, he's being spoken about as we sit here today. But the moment he knows that World Cup is obviously something that he's going to be a part of, in his mind, for sure, you can see that he will start taking those risks and making sure he scores at a faster rate. And that is a normal tendency for any batter, and it will happen for Shikhar Dhawan.
Yeah, we'll keep a close eye on him because, once again, a quick reminder, India will be batting first after Liton Das, the stand-in Bangladesh captain, won the toss and asked them to do so. Remember, Bangladesh are without their regular captain, Tamim Iqbal, out with a groin injury, and they're also missing the services of Taskin Ahmed, their spearhead in the bowling department. They still have a decent looking attack, but with those two names missing, Joy, and we've already referred to it in our preview with DK, that's going to be a blow for them, even though they're in home conditions.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, they are missing, and Taneem has been for them, Potla as they call him. He's just an absolutely sensational player. And this is Bangladesh's format. This is the format they like playing at home. They've been well unbeatable at home. And so just this lineup is, and they know these conditions well. Mirpur, they don't play in too many grounds in Bangladesh, so conditions are very familiar to them. This is a difficult team to beat. And India will have to put everything in to get a result out here. It's not an easy one.
Obviously, they've put India into bat, so they'll have something in mind about what they feel are the kind of scores that are chaseable, but they'll also know that they'll have to do a job with that Indian batting lineup.
That's always the case. But they will also know this is probably not the strongest Indian batting lineup that they've come up against. The fact that a Washington Sundar is at 6 and a Shahbaz Ahmed at 7, both of them put together have played less than 10 ODI. So, that also shows that if they pick a few wickets, India will probably, slow down during the middle so that, the middle order batsmen don't come in too early, rather the lower order all-rounders don't come in too early. That also gives them the opportunity through the middle. They might not get obviously played at a higher run rate. So that is something that they can draw a lot of confidence from as well, because this Indian team has 3 all-rounders there. And, that in turn will mean that they're slightly light on the batting, so to say, which they're not used to. Generally, they bat pretty heavy. So that is something that Bangladesh will draw a lot of confidence from.
Just looking back at the Indian squad, once again, we showed it to you at the top. That's why we're talking about Washington Sundar, Shahbaz Ahmed. You can always throw Shardul Thakur, Deepak Chahar in that sort of all-rounder category. So they wouldn't worry about the batting to come. But as DK pointed out, it's not quite the heaviness that you see in terms of firepower.
I mean, the top 4 are the top 4, but yeah, after that it falls away a bit more than it normally does. But look, that's the thing, that we have that kind of talent available, and if they have to get opportunities, this is the opportunity. The interesting one is, again, that this is a team selected by a selection committee who's gone and done. So what will be very interesting to see is that this is that last selection that they have done. From now, a selection committee will choose a selection committee who will then choose the future players for India. So this is the last sort of throw of the dice of the last committee who's come out there. And that's what I'm saying. It's interesting. No wrist spinners. Are they a part of our future? Are they something that we're looking at, something we should definitely look at? All those are there, but they've also left us little bit light on the top order players who are around there. And that's what we're looking at now.
Yep, absolutely is. But in terms of Bangladesh's record, Joy briefly alluded to it. It's not just throwing out a line saying that they're tigers at home, but have a look at this. This is the reason why we are saying it. Results in 2022, Afghanistan, who are always a strong force right now. We saw what they're doing in Sri Lanka recently. They're competing well. South Africa in March, 2-1. And the West Indies, yes, they can blow hot and cold, but 3-0 whitewash of them in July. Zimbabwe was the one anomaly, and I think it's a testament to Zimbabwe cricket, DK. But otherwise, Bangladesh, these are the kind of results generally green on a graphics like that.
Absolutely. I think they have done really well. Like Joy perfectly put it. I think this is their format because, they're kind of made for it and they've made it their own in many ways. And that's why they'll be a very strong contender for the World Cup that's going to come around next summer. If they don't qualify, I think they'll be very disappointed with themselves. I think they have a real opportunity at having, trying to make it to the semi-finals. They have that potential because they've played as a well-rounded unit for them for some time now, led by Tamim Iqbal, and done very well through the middle with some proper middle order batters. So I'm very keen to see how they keep going from strength to strength, because if they don't have a good Asia Cup and they don't have a good World Cup, we can see a lot of heads rolling in the in the Bangladesh team post that World Cup as well.
Yeah, I mean, I think that's something that's going to be important for them. We talk about our selectors, but there's always enough of action happening in Bangladesh. When it comes to selectors, who does what, who calls the shots,
who heads the BCB, what is happening. So that's a soap opera every time, and it always. No, I was just thinking of one other thing. This is probably the last big hurrah for that generation. That 2007, the Tamim, Shakib, that Mushfiqur, they came in together. For 15 years, they've been fantastic servants of Bangladesh cricket. This is perhaps 23 is perhaps the time you see that them fading into the distance. Look at it for India as well. I mean, how many more tournaments after that? Rohit, Shikhar, maybe even Virat, if he's this thing. How many more World Cups do they want to play after that? Those are all questions that you have to ask yourselves. And it is going to be, I know that it sounds very early and dramatic, but that's a fact that this is probably, Virat will be looking at it and saying, boss, this is the World Cup. I want to I started with a World Cup win. I want to probably end with a World Cup win. And, his career in those terms, he played that 2011. He'd want to play 23 and finish well.
I was tempted to start to draw paddles with the Football World Cup, but I won't get there because it'll lead us into a very long discussion. So instead, I'll stick to what Joyce just said and get one more thought from Dinesh Karthik on the two names we mentioned in the build-up, Mahmudullah and Mushfiqur Rahim. We haven't seen enough of them of late, but they're definitely in their plans for the next 12 months and will be a very important part of their plans for the next 3 matches.
Absolutely. I think, irrespective of whatever happens, we will probably be seeing them last time for Bangladesh wearing those greens in this 2023 World Cup. They've been a very integral part of their middle order. Mushfiqur Rahim is an extremely talented player who obviously plays all around the wicket, has a good head on his shoulders. Mahmudullah on the other side, somebody who is required to anchor and then take off towards the end more like a finisher, and he's done a very decent job. Interestingly, they left him out of the T20 World Cup, which didn't sit well with many people, but they actually, to be fair, have had a good T20 World Cup after many years. For the first time in 10 or 12 years, I think they won a game in the Super 12 phase, which has never happened. So, theoretically, they've had a good World Cup. They beat Zimbabwe as well. So they've had a good World Cup, and they would like to go one better in the 2023 World Cup. And for that, these names that we spoke about, Mahmudullah, Shakib, Tamim and Mushfiqur, definitely need to stand up with the bat.
Yeah, let's just remind you, yes, the qualification procedure sometimes can confuse a lot of us. Bangladesh have, in fact, officially qualified for that 2023 World Cup. And of course, a lot of people talk about the series, the points that you pick up. This particular series will not have points qualifying towards that. But nonetheless, the road to 2023 continues. A quick one on Rohit Sharma before we get to Joy's question for the day. Just a quick look at what Rohit Sharma said to put our entire discussion into context about the Bangladesh team. And he did refer to 2015. A lot of guys coming to Bangladesh for the first time. Most places in the world can morph into India's home base, but none of these places are in Bangladesh. Very Rohit-like comment.
It's a lovely comment. I love his press conferences. He's so much fun. It's an honest statement, absolutely honest statement.
But now it's over to you, Joy, for our first of 3 questions. And you've been armed with a few.
This one, I know DK will get in a flash, but he's not going to give away the answer. Okay, take a look. It was Shubham Arora in 2021, Aditya Tare just before him. Who is it in 2022?
Hold your thoughts, DK, there. Don't whip the bails off yet. The ball has reached you. Collect it behind the stumps. Yeah. Wait for somebody else to answer, and then you can finish the stumping. That's your Joy Factor question for the day. Hashtag Cricbuzz Live. Get your answers back to us. And we'll, of course, talk about it at the end of the show. For now, one final reminder. First of 3 ODIs in Bangladesh. Liton Das has won the toss. India will be batting first with all their stalwarts back in the lineup. Well, let's get a prediction in before we finish the show. It's a 50-over game. We need to reset our brains for that.
Yeah.
no more 140s and 150s, so it's quite possible at times. 50 overs, India, 300.
I still think, and the big boys are back, I'm going to go for 308. Nice, positive total.
Already straight above 300. DK?
I'll go for 289.
308, 289. I can't be not generous to Team India. Maybe they're going to be rusty to start with and get to like a 270 and defend it. No. I'm going high. 325. 325. Why not? Let's pay tribute to the first time India started getting to those 300 plus totals and see if they can get there. 270, 325, which end of the spectrum is it going to be? First match in Mirpur. Lots to talk about. Remember, we're going to be back on Cricbuzz Combox not once but twice in the innings in 50 over cricket, 15th and 35th over. So we'll see you in 15 overs. For now, from DK Joy and myself, that's all on Cricbuzz Live.